Hi, I'm Anthony Saluto. This is the second video I will be placing in this PowerPoint that I will be submitting for this assignment. This one is covering revisions of the lesson plans that we were doing. I will be talking about the the reading comprehension. My biggest, we'll just go into the questions with the most challenging revisions needed based on the suggestions from your peer feedback. It's really wordy, and looking at it, it's just archaeological. It's not as historical as it could be. That's part of my issue with this. I'm gonna jump down a couple questions. This is why I decided to redo it, because it's not 100% historical. It's truly an archaeological paper. I'll go to it and show you what I mean. This right here, this section, I'll step out of frame so it can adjust. That's the most historical context in the paper. It really is. And I think that's what derived the biggest challenge for me. Everything here is how does the material works, what it's found. Like, you don't get to anything until here, archaeological evidence. Here's certain rocks, here's how old they might be. Here's the elevations. This doesn't go into historical context of what they were used for, what it is, why it's important. And that's why I wanted to do this. This is question, I'm answering question. Whoa. Oh, where is it? Pardon me. It's why I decided to do this one, was the question. What was the most challenging revision based on instructor feedback? The problem with instructor feedback was it was praises. Everything seemed very good. Everything seemed very perfect. And I don't like that, because there's room for improvement, especially in this. This was a paper, this part of the assignment was done mainly by another student who I'll keep unnamed, because of a passion they have for learning more about these things. I have no issue with that. My issues with this is it doesn't feel historical. There is no love or care of the past. There's no the who, the why, the what, the where. It's the what is the theory, how are we basing the theory, here's where we're archaeologically found. And it stops there. And that was my issue with this section. I get why they did it, and they did a majority of the work due to that. And that's part of my issue as well, is I feel like I could have done more, but wasn't able to due to this my coworker, classmate's passion. What indicator in the rubric did we score lowest? I'll go ahead and pull that up. That is this one. Revised overall unit info. We got needs improvement. And this kind of goes back to my statement of the historical contents. I'm going to try and wrap this up in 5 minutes. A total of 8 minutes. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. Because I'll go ahead and read this. The number 5. 5 would have said all unit information was provided. There's a clear alignment between standards and critical concepts. Some of the assessments, previous feedback was used to make improvements. My issue with the revised overall unit info is, again, it's not historical, it's archaeological. That's my issue with this. My issues with this is it's not talking about tribes of people who migrated from this area. It's not talking about potential pandemics, famines, wars that happened that would have impacted historical societies. None of that is present. That's my issue with the source that we've used. This is what I wanted to talk about. Going on to the next question that was brought up as the wrong tab. Write 2 or 3 sentences about one specific step in the ROCC that I'm least confident with. Going into this originally, I was least confident in the word wall, and that's why I took the time to redo a word wall. And the word wall was left to be, in a perfect world, left open for students to add on to, so they could digest and add more to. But I go over that in another thing. But that's where I was least confident, because for the reason of the one classmate kind of took the reins on this assignment on a historical context I honestly do not know a whole lot about. And I felt disservice doing that. I wish I could have done more independent research on it. I wish they'd asked me, what are your thoughts? What do you know? What can you know? What do you want to learn from this classmate? Because I, at some point, will need to teach this. And that is going to go into the next question of one thing that you've made substantial improvements to your that would support your students' disciplinary learning. One thing I think would improve it is I had a journal, an actual journal from a Spaniard talking about food relations and what they did, and they traded food, and it was a 12-page document, yes, but you really only need page 2 through 6. Or I believe, yeah, 2 through 6, 2 through 8, if you want to keep reading. And it talked about food and life and why it was important, and there was different words that were used now. Even in the academic, in the last section, I was like, hey, here's a journal from Christopher Columbus that we could use to start, and that was even scrapped. I feel that there's everything around history, but not history. You're almost there, but you're not. And that's one thing that I feel we could do better to support our students' disciplinary learning. A paragraph about how my perspective differed or was the same as I approached the plan after having immersed learning related to disciplinary literacy over the last few weeks. My big takeaways from this is it all takes time. And that I think is something that we should take away from this, is it takes time. Us as students, as teachers, as anybody, we should be able to look back at this in a year, in the 10 months after we graduate. When we student teach, when we're observing, we should look back, we should be watching everything who, like, the teachers were under, and watch and learn and do everything. We should be able to look at this after we graduate, after our first year of teaching, after our 5th year of teaching, and look back at these things and see what we can improve. And after more time has passed, the better it will be. You cook an onion slower, longer, you get better results. I'm sorry with all the food analogies and everything, but it's true. If you take the time and put the effort in and not rush it, you have a better results. This is the 7th to 8th, 9th time I've done this video because I wanted to do it better, and it feels like it's getting better. We're going to scroll down to step 4 in the reflection table. Explain why you chose to revisit this LSP. Again, it's the word wall that ties into it was not a good word wall. That was our lowest grade that we've received as a group. The text in it, in my personal opinion, is not a good historical text to read, especially in a 10th grade classroom. It's not. Period. If you gave that to a 10th grader, they would not read it. If I'm being honest, I was a 10th grader, I wouldn't have read it. In a reflection from 1 through, I choose balance. Okay. You're not required to choose a plan with the lowest score, but this is why. For step 5, why I chose to complete a reflection 2 with provided feedback. I'm doing this before we get the feedback because we've already gotten the feedback for the writing section, and that's why I feel like it's important. The issue that I truly have is a lot of it was praise, and I can go through and read the praise here in a second. Starting at the top, there's nothing. Great, we did an excellent job. The next ones are for a little while. No feedback on these, very well. One minor thing, the word wall was thrown in after the disciplinary purpose. It's referenced on the following page. It would likely be better to put a word wall after all. I redid the word wall that would help tie in with this. I redid the work that would tie in with this. I will even find a historical text and link it in the PowerPoint that I will provide. There's so much that could be improved to make it a more historical thing. The document that was given feels like something you would talk about in an archaeological year 1 college class and not in a 10th grade history class. And that was something that we did the quad text work for. I feel that if we had stuck to the guns on the quad text and used what we had provided, it would have been better. The document that we gave is not truly a proper historical content to be read. There's so little in a vast amount of information that is truly historical, that could be digested as historical. I want to wrap this up by saying thank you for listening to me ramble on. The reason I did a video is because if I redid this writing lesson plan how I would have liked with a true historical thing or historical paper, I would be redoing the entire assignment. I just don't have time for that. I would love to if I could, but due to the requirements of this class and the requirements of the other class, there's not enough time to truly go over everything again. I would have loved to have been able to use something about the cultures, the trades, the people, the sicknesses that they got, something more historical, or even just an overview of the Inquisition that led to it, of the Inquisition in general, that the transcripts between the Catholic Church and Queen Isabella, something that would push this, an event that pushed this to happen is what I feel will be the proper thing to talk about, because it also invokes independent reading and research, and that's something that was brought up in this, but I'm going to cut this off now. Thank you for listening to this. I hope you enjoyed having me as a student as much as I had you as a teacher. This has been a wild semester. Again, everything does take time, and that's part of why I'm choosing not to redo it, because I don't want to be rushed and do a worse job. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.